Hello and welcome to the MyClayCo studio. My name is Carla and today we're going to be creating charms for charm bracelets. So I'm going to be doing two different charm techniques today, and that is creating 3D charms, so actually sculpting pieces and then popping them onto a charm bracelet. But I'm also going to be touching on the faux enamel technique, which I've already shown previously, but I'm going to show you how to turn them into charms so that you can add them to your charm bracelets. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so when we talk about charms, a lot of the time we're making them for charm bracelets. I'm actually going to be showing you how to put together charms for if you're doing a 3D version, and then how to put together charms if you're using like a flat disc style version of a charm. So let's get into the easiest one first, which is our plain old flat disc style. So here I have some of our faux enamel charms that I've already cut out, created, and fully sealed. All we have to do now is actually turn these into charms so that we can add them to a charm bracelet. Now, one way that you can do it is by actually adding eye pins in when they're baking, but because these are perfectly circular, I didn't want to distort the shape at all, which you could put it in the freezer and then put them in and you'll have less chance of the pins warping the top of them. But I actually just like to bake them so that they're a nice crisp shape and then use screw pins. So I'm going to show you now how to put screw pins into flat disc charms. So screw pins are a type of eye pin, but they actually have this little screw part at the bottom instead of just a plain piece of metal. So if you've seen an eye pin, you know that it is more this kind of shape. So it hasn't got the actual screw part, which is what helps it secure. Even though it's straight, we don't have to glue this one in because it's going to hold itself in with this screw. Now, one of the things that I like to do with these screw pins, if I'm using them on a flat piece of clay, is to actually create a well before I put it in. So these are self-tapping. But what I generally do is line up where the center of my piece is. So that's where my ghostie is. And I line up near not quite the center. I want to go slightly behind that. And all I do is I just press in to create like a little indent. Now I go slightly behind the center mark because my faux enamel pins have a rim. So I don't want it to go through the center because the center includes that rim part, which means it won't go all the way through the clay and is potentially prone to coming out either end. But now that I've got that little indent there, I can actually take my screw eye pin and I can sit the top of it in there. And all I'm going to do is I actually hold my screw pin straight and I turn my piece. And I apply a little bit of pressure from either end. And all the while I go around and I just check that I'm going in straight and that I'm not going a wonky donkey. Once you get past a certain point too as well, you can actually move away from using your pliers and just twist it in with your hand. Now, depending on where you want the loop situated, whether you want it that way or that way, completely up to you. I generally sit mine around, and as you can see, there's still a little bit of metal above there, but if I do a full turn, it might indent too much. So I'm just going to do a half turn. And there we go. I'd say that's pretty perfect. And as you can see, we didn't come out on the back side or on the front. So that is now ready to go on either dangle earrings or as a charm on like a little charm bracelet or even on a keychain, whatever you want to use it for. So I'm going to do that to the rest of the other charms. And then I'm going to move on how to make your 3D pieces into charms. Now, in terms of our 3D pieces, I am going to be creating like little Christmas cookies with these ones. So I have already baked up my top and bottom pieces, And I'm going to cut out unbaked clay to make the red centers, and that's where I'm going to be putting in my findings to make sure that I can make these into charms. So generally when I'm making 3D charms, if I am not cutting layered pieces like this, I would do the same screw pin technique that I just showed you, because it's a much larger area of clay, so it's easy to tap it with a needle tool and then screw the screw pin in. This one I'm just going to show you if I have like a layered piece, like if you're doing cookies or macarons, sandwiches, anything like that that might have multiple pieces. I'll show you another way, as opposed to the screw pins, that you could turn these into charms. So I have here some unbaked red clay that I am going to be using for the centers of my cookies. And I have the matching cutter to the base piece, and I'm actually just going to stamp out 4 of those, since I've got 4 biscuits that I'm going to be doing. And now this is the part where we're actually going to be turning them into charms. So one of the things that I really like to do with eye pins, if I'm putting them in unbaked clay, is just to give them a little kink. I find that if you kink them a little bit, which I'm going to do just with my pliers, if I put a slight movement in that piece and then I put it on my unbaked clay, let's try and line this up where I want it to be. This little kink is going to hold onto the clay better than if it was just a straight line. So I've actually put it in, so as you can see, the top of my biscuit is where I've got this scallop. So that's where I'm going to want this to scallop. And when I've got the piece in, I'm just going to apply some pressure and embed it in my unbaked clay. And what this is going to do is it's going to ensure that eye pin isn't going to be coming out after baking, because I'm going to be sandwiching it in between the clay pieces. So I'm just going to do the rest of these, and then I'm going to show you how I finish these off to make sure they're not going anywhere. Okay, so I've got all of those embedded in so that they're past the top mark here of the clay. And to make sure that they're really, really secure, I'm actually going to bacon bond the backs of these biscuits on, so that that's going to be fully encased and super secure inside of this. And then after it's baked and cleaned up, then I can add my front biscuits. And these can either be glued on, or you can do another round of baking with bacon bond. But for now, I'm just going to pop my bacon bond on and then my back cookies, and then we'll get it in the oven. Okay, now I've got all of those ones on my little jam pieces, and as you can see, those are all pretty embedded in there. And I'm going to bake these now because they've got the bacon bond, and obviously the red is unbaked clay. And then I'm going to pop these on after. Well, I hope by now you have some lovely charms to put on a beautiful charm bracelet and that you can mix and match the pieces to suit whatever outfit that you are wearing that day. If you did like the video, we would love for you to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you had any questions or comments about the video today, just pop a comment down below. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.